Thank you all for coming to the meeting this evening. Before I start the meeting, I want to take a moment, unusual and unprecedented times, to bow our heads in thoughts and prayers for the 100,000 people that have died from this pandemic. We should all remember them, two from Easthampton, and hope they rest in peace. Thank you. I am going to make a statement before we start. The public is invited to speak during public comment tonight. However, this is not a public hearing, so there can be no public comments during this budget discussions with department heads and any other item that's on the agenda involving the Finance Committee to a vote. There will be a public hearing on the budget and on the fire contract appropriations on June 3rd. During that public hearing, the public will be invited to comment. Tonight, your video will be turned off by the chair of the finance meeting to reduce distractions during the meeting. All members of the public will be placed on mute after the public speak portion of the agenda. I ask that all city officials, members of the fire department, rename yourself so we know that you are a member of the government and so we don't turn you off. Thank you. Peg, if you would deal with the video for public, I'd appreciate it.
Sure thing.
I would like a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you, Councilor Lynch. They were great.
So moved. Wait,
Bill, second.
wait, hang on one second.
Those were old. I didn't write them yet for the last meeting.
Yeah, we didn't have anything.
Mistake. I do recall that. Okay.
It was the amended ones is all I did. I just amended the last ones that we did and I sent
We
those.
voted those in.
Yep.
Correct.
You sent them to Barbara. My mistake. Okay,
Yep.
I didn't read that. All right, now is the time for public speak. If you wish to speak on any of the items, I'm sorry, we're going to drop that. I skipped over mayor communications. Mayor, do you want to say anything that has nothing that is different than what's on the agenda?
I do.
Okay.
We learned today that the city was awarded $30,000 from the Attorney General's Small Business Relief Partnership Grant Program that will assist small businesses in Easthampton to address fixed debt, payroll, accounts payable, lost sales, lost opportunities, and other working capital expenses incurred by the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the first grant that we have applied for, and we were successful in getting to help specifically our small businesses. None of this money can be used for government expenditures. It is allocated out from the city. We'll have details of how to apply within the next week, and I'd like to give a tip of the hat to our treasurer, Jen Gallant, who turned this application around, I think, in a day to meet the deadline. So it's a small glimmer of hope, and I hope to report much more of these dollars coming to Easthampton in the very near future. That's all I have.
Thank you. Now public speak. If you're a member of the public, not a member of the fire department or a member of the government, and you wish to speak, now is your time. So please raise your hand or turn off your video. Are there any members of the public here? They're all fire department, okay. Do you see anything, Peg?
No, I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Okay, we'll move on to the topic of the firefighters contract appropriations, which I am going to deal with both of them at once because they're both the same with regard to our decision making. We will vote on them separately. I'm going to share the screen. Is everybody seeing this?
Yes.
This was sent to me by Jen just recently. It is give me a second, people. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with my computer. Okay. It is the latest figures for the contract. It shows over 3 years. Oh, I'm still gotta go more. Sorry. 425,000 cost over 3 years. Tonight we are voting on the 38,000 for the 2020 fiscal year and the 122,000 for this year. Are these numbers still the same, Jen? The 122 and the 38 we're voting on tonight?
No, yes.
Yes?
Jen? You're on mute, Jen. Oh, just 1 minute, apparently.
She's looking at them.
I just have to bring up the numbers because I can't see on the screen.
You can't see them on my screen? On your screen?
I can't see the total ones, and I just want to make sure I'm not misquoting myself here. So
These
The
look
num-
different than what was in the package.
They are. They were redone. They were mistaken. She told, and I asked her to send me the correct ones.
Okay.
there was a discrepancy between my numbers and Bob Dixon's due to a difference in the education incentive,
Okay.
the percentages, but the numbers you have here are, can you go to the, yeah, there we go. Yes, these are correct. The ones that you're showing on the screen right now.
Trying to make it smaller. Does everybody see the final in bold yellow? Everybody sees that?
Right.
Okay.
So, hey,
Yeah,
Dan,
they don't
Dan,
match. though.
Dan, if you slow down just a second, can you, thank you. So that is, so I don't understand. So that is
Right.
$30,000 more than we
Yeah, our
got,
total was 398.
398, now it's 425.
She changed the numbers. Yes, she did.
I got that. I understand that. But so how do we then arrive at the same number of 122 and 38?
They
We don't.
can't be.
52 and 168 now.
Right.
That's what
You-
it looks like.
Oh,
No, when
I thought somebody just said they were the same.
I'm sorry, when I said those are the same, I meant the ones on the screen are the actuals as of right now.
Okay,
So the
so,
ones that need to be voted on are the 52,706.62 and the 168,875.57.
So technically, these have to be resubmitted.
Or amended, right?
Appropriation. We can't vote
Amended.
on something. We can decrease it, but we can't vote to increase it. Madam President, I also was going to ask you about a CPA rental relief, but this would probably mean that we're going to have to wait until June 10th to discuss this, which will mean June 17th. That's when we'll deal with the public safety budget. Do you agree? Because I don't see how we can do this tonight. Val, go ahead,
this is
Val.
not what we sent to committee.
No, Val, you're muted, Val. I got you.
Okay, not only can you not do it tonight, it has to be resubmitted, but there isn't that much left in reserve, so that has to be funded in a different way.
Okay,
So it's gonna have to,
There's a lot of reasons why it has to be redone.
okay.
So unfortunately, I know the fire department's here. We're gonna have to stop this discussion, and what this means, that there was gonna be a June 10th meeting anyway, because we were gonna deal with a CPA, two CPA appropriations, one for rental relief, and I was gonna ask for a public hearing for June 17th anyway. But what this will mean is when we do the public hearings on the 3rd, we're gonna have to skip over public safety because they're included, the fire department's included in that. Because if these appropriations pass, that changes the public safety final. Is that not correct, Val?
no, I'm doing this in the same way that I did the police last year. They were shorted on their union contract, so we voted it from free cash in fiscal year 19, and I just held it over into 20, and then it became an amended budget. It did not affect the actual regular budget, and that's what I was planning on doing with this also.
So we could vote on June 3rd on the public safety budget and
Yes.
then amend it on June 17th.
You don't have to amend.
Well, whatever your appropriation comes in, if we choose to do this, these two appropriations, we would have a public hearing on the 17th to do so, correct?
You would not have to change the original 2021 budget at all.
No, I'm not talking about that. These
Oh, okay.
appropriations have to have a public hearing.
Yeah,
Once the finance committee is done on the 10th, and that would be the 17th, because I think it would need to be done before the new budget year. Well, I think,
yes,
is that correct?
yes.
So President Coniff, it looks like we're going to have a June 17th meeting.
Yep.
But we can
that's
vote the
good.
entire budget in. So members of the fire department, thank you for coming. I really apologize, but the numbers have to be correct. That's what we do in the finance world, finance meeting. So you will have opportunity to speak to this again at the next meeting, June 10th. Okay, guys? If you want to say something now, you're welcome to, but again, I'm moving on to the budget. Does anybody want to say anything from the fire department? Fire personnel? You see anybody, Peg, raising their
Oh,
hand?
sorry. No.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Moving on to the budget. Jen sent me this evening, if I can find it. She sent me the budget that is in streamlined form with just the numbers, so that when we need to go to it, I can. I'm going to wait and see, but I also have the I'm sorry, I have to find them. The budget, what I'm looking for is the motions, and I know I have them. Darn it. I'm sorry, I should have done this correctly.
You're doing okay, Dan. It's hard. You're doing okay.
I'm not sure where the motions are. They went. What did we call the motions before, Val? You called them something?
I don't know that they
Oh,
have
they
the,
were. I'm sorry. I got them. There they are. They were an Excel thing, and I did the wrong one. So my apologies. So here are the budget motions. What I'm going to do is go from one to the next.
Dan, if you think you're showing them, you're not.
Okay.
The Excel spreadsheet that she sent?
Yeah, let me do it again.
Okay.
So. Do you see these now?
No,
God damn
you're
it.
you're still sharing the fire department thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get rid of it. My apologies, everybody. I'm
No worries.
working on this.
No worries.
Now?
yes,
Yeah.
Now, Val, are these the right ones? It says budget and vote outline 1. Do they look right, Val?
I'm checking them right now. 17, 17, yes, those are the right ones.
So before we get into each budget and a motion to approve and or amend, I'm going to ask Jen Gallant to make a statement because I want to thank her first for submitting the entire budget in outline form today with corrected numbers. Correct, Jen? The numbers that in that particular one are correct.
Yes.
When we have to go to that screen, I'll have to reshare it. But I have all of those numbers. If we want to look at a specific budget line. And I just want to thank you, Jen. And my biggest question on the entire budget is my feeling on this is a tight budget. Would you agree?
Yes. I've done many budgets in my professional career, and to have a budget that increases by less than 2%, this one is actually 1 I think it's 0.98, is almost unheard of, especially when contract negotiations have incurred and, you know, raises have happened in the interim. So essentially what that means is that expenses, even though the bottom line number is a little bit larger than last year, expenses are actually down because we had to cut those deeper to, you know, account for the CBA adjustments and, you know, the pay plan adjustments and that sort of thing, which weren't in any way astronomical, but, you know, they were just contractual. And so, yes, I would consider this bare bones. I mean, I don't know that there's much to take from here. And, you know, obviously the residents want our services and, you know, we need to be providing what we can for them. And, you know, given that the economy is uncertain, fiscal 21 is a little bit uncertain with revenues and things like that. Obviously, there are a lot of unknowns, but I really do think that this is a very, very lean budget.
Thank you. Mayor LaChapelle, I'd like to add, if I make the statement that the revenue for this based on state aid is a best scenario hope for revenue that you cannot confirm until the fall, if then. Is that a fair statement?
That is.
Do you want to say anything in defense of your budget before we move to each one and seeing if there's amendments from councilors?
I would say that the budget, as the treasurer and auditor who prepared revenue projections, it's a very tight budget. I think it's important to note where you do see increases on any given line. It is an investment that the community endeavored to make starting 3 years ago into building a better, stronger future for Easthampton, and that this is no time to back away from that. The services that I have added and positions I've added to this budget, yes, at the cost of other departments, are key to ensuring that our hospitality and public health services are top notch and that our forward-thinking planning remains there so we can capture every single dollar so that new growth continues to happen and we're attracting people to Easthampton and keeping it reasonably affordable. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to make a general statement. I've looked at this for a long time, and I feel that I cannot be in favor of any cuts to this budget in any way now. I believe that the couple of positions that were given were necessary. One, the planning department position is actually going to pay for itself and is an economic driver, as Councilor Peak eloquently stated the other night. I also feel the health department needing help is obvious. I also feel it's extremely tight, and I think it would be inappropriate to try and cut it now, given that it's so tight and that we may have to do it in the fall. And I would rather the mayor and her department heads make those choices in an educated, very careful way if and when we do have to cut the budget in the fall. So that's just my general feeling. I will vote against any changes tonight. That's so that you all know that. That's where I'm going to stand. Councilor Khan, if I'm going to go to you, do you want to make any general comments, or do we want to move to each budget directly?
So I don't have anything in, well, I sort of do. I would agree that I think that a lot of the pencil sharpening has already occurred. I also agree that it's hard to put a budget together with unknown numbers, future numbers that we may have. We could be off by a magnitude of a certain number. If someone's doing something that is very loud, I don't know if someone's, sorry, distracted.
Mayor.
Sorry. So I feel like once we know the numbers that the state and even FEMA will return to us, I'm not in favor of mass cuts right now, only because, especially to personnel, because we'll never get them back, or it'll be years before we get them back. And I just don't think that's the right reaction right now. I think we need to have more knowns than unknowns, and we have too many unknowns right now. There are certainly opportunities to cut people if we have to go there. I don't think now is the time to do that. And the second thing I want to say is, Dan, you referenced some new numbers that Jen gave you. I don't know that I got those. Can you forward those?
Did you
You
email
got them
anybody?
today.
Can I just say, yes, I can send them to everybody, the council as well. The budget figures are not new. They're all the same. The only thing that was
These are the line
updated,
items.
I'm sorry?
These are the more delineated line items from some-
Exactly. These are where the summaries didn't match, that type of thing. So what I did is I tried to keep going through, and you will notice in the document that Dan has, I got through to enterprise. I think it was, no, I'm sorry, culture and recreation. Those are still going to look like what you had because I'm still going through and fixing the format on those. You know,
It's
so
all an outline form, right, Jen?
yes, they're all included. It's all in there. And the final budget numbers, I did not change. I just changed or fixed summaries and
Cleaned it
FTE
up
and
a
things
little.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could send that to the full council before next, well, actually, as soon as possible, that'd be great.
My intention was tomorrow to fix the additional pages that you'll see and then send it out to everyone.
Great, thank
I
you.
don't intend to go to that unless the counselor wants. Bill, I'm going to go to you now. If a counselor wants to look at an account and maybe amend it, I will pull that up when counselors do that. Counselor Lynch, general statement, and then we'll go on to everything.
Yeah, you know, I looked over my notes from the previous 3 years or so that I've been really diving into the budget and been involved. And I you know, do have some proposals that I'd like to share and send to the committee with explanations and everything else. I do think that, you know, part of the conversation around fear of what the future holds and you know, where our citizens are going to be financially as well should be part of the conversation, you know, or in the back of your head, you know, when making these. And it's not easy for me to propose these changes. I know everybody worked very hard on this budget, and I wholeheartedly agree that it's not an easy thing, but you know, that's part of our job too, that we're elected to challenge some things. And, you know, I made a lot of notes, and I take notes. I have tons of them from years past. And I feel either bringing a budget to where it was last year is more acceptable than increasing some of the lines. And some of the additions I don't think are warranted at this point, but we can discuss it further as we go on. I probably have, Dan, I don't know, 10 or 12 areas that we can review as we go through each area if you want. And I sent you.
That's what we'll do, Bill. We'll go to the budget. You're going to tell me I'd like to look at the X department in general government. I'm going to call up that department, and you're going to talk about that figure. Just for a purpose, for purposes tonight, so you know, if your amendments are defeated, you certainly can bring them forward as a minority opinion at the full council. If they are passed, Val will have to change the bottom line figure, probably have two motions for June 3rd. One, the original motion, and two, whatever the finance committee decides to change, because there's, like, if you look at general government here, water, sewer, enterprise, and that has to change based on a formula if we reduce this figure to 1,922,000, for instance. So that's just a matter of process. So Bill, I'm gonna stop this share. Which particular budget in general government do you want to see?
All right, so in general government, we can go, the first one would be mayor line.
Okay, I'm going to the mayor's line. You all see this? I'm scrolling.
Yep.
Yep.
Here it is. Which line do you want to look at, Bill?
Okay. So it's just the principal clerk line, adjusting it to a 15-hour work week, which it would adjust the salary of that line 1210-5113 principal clerk back to 15 hours, as it was in 2018, 19, and 2020. 15-hour work week budgeted at 18,702, adjusted to 14,202, and then
I'm not seeing it.
It's down, Bill, Dan, right there, right there.
the 18,702.
I see 26.
Go over.
Oh, there it is. Got it. So you would like to move to reduce that to what?
To 14,202.
Mayor, do you have a comment on that before we vote on it?
I do. It was my understanding that counselors cannot cut line by line, but can only cut by general section of the government.
I actually asked Val that, and she said they could. Val, would you?
I'll reserve and to speak to legal counsel. I do not believe that that is correct. And it's not correct under our charter. We went through this last year.
Okay, I asked that because I haven't cut a budget. We cut it once in 25 years, so you'll have to forgive me.
And yeah, and to cut a budget right now and to have it go into free cash, I think is irresponsible and cuts the functioning of a government that is already stretched. I will kindly disagree with Councillor Lynch. I think it's bad fiscal practice.
And I tend to agree with the mayor in that I don't think we can do line by line, but I asked Val and she felt we could. And the other reason for that is intra-department transfers can be done without council approval. So what happens is if you cut a line, the mayor could move money back into it out of something else. So perhaps we'll do it this way, but I think before next week, Bill, we're going to have to look at and see if we legally can do it line by line. You may have to suggest that the entire section, which is general government, be reduced X amount. Mayor.
I can do that if
Yes. So I would just like to make a request. If there are going to be questions, especially about something as big as the budget to department heads that the mayor's office is linked in, ultimately it's my budget, and to have different department heads having different take, I really enjoy that conversation. But if there are only singular members of the public or elected bodies that are getting that information or specific interpretation without full context from other legal departments, including the city attorney, I think it defeats public transparency.
I'm not sure what you'd like us to do. I tend to agree with you, but.
I would like to follow the rules that we have year after year. I would like to suspend this hearing and revisit it with a clean set of questions that the council has of department heads, as well as a legal determination about a line by line cut, which has not happened.
I would disagree.
So line by line cuts are administration. They're administrative, Dan. They're administrative.
I don't disagree.
And they are on the executive, right. So I'm not sure why we're even considering line by line cuts. If you agree. I don't. So I would like this meeting to be suspended.
No, I'm not.
I want the citation.
I'm not gonna do that. Okay, Councilor Lynch, if you would like to make a motion to reduce the entire section's budget, I would take that into consideration. If it passes, then we can move on. But I agree with the mayor, we cannot do line by line at this time. You could point out lines that you feel could be reduced, but
You want the entire mayor's total line, like that 1210?
No, the entire section of government.
The entire general government?
Right. So if you point that you want to reduce this budget by 4,000 and another part in general government by 5,000, add it all up, then your motion would be to reduce the entire section by that amount. But you can go through and point out things that you would like to change.
okay. I got to do some math, and I mean, I don't have the general government. I can get a total number real quick on different things.
Can I make a suggestion? Councilor Coniff,
Yes.
I would vote for this budget as it is. If you were in agreement, then Councilor Lynch can make his motions at the full council meeting to reduce each section as it is.
Well, how about this? How about we let Counselor Lynch speak to the areas of his concern? We won't necessarily vote to reduce anything necessarily if you and I are of a majority opinion to go in as is. But I think he should have the opportunity to voice his concerns in this forum.
I would agree. So Bill, I think what we're saying is you're not going to not have the opportunity to make an actual motion. But I always felt that the mayor is correct, that it has to be by section, so you'll have time to prepare a motion for the full committee for those sections you wish to change. But right now, why don't you go through and point to things? You've already mentioned the mayor's clerk. We'll continue to other items that you would like to consider in general government. Then we'll move general government, then we'll go on to something else, okay? Is that an agreement with the finance committee?
Yep, that works.
And before I leave general government, I'll ask other counselors to make comment too. Bill, what's your next item besides the principal clerk?
Just the $400 there for the mayor's expense.
Okay, so you're going to consider, you're going to put that into your motion, okay?
Yep, so that $400. Moving on to city attorney, the budget for that line to go back down to 50,000 like previous years.
I just want to get there.
What?
Did I miss it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was right up for the mayor.
What the hell is it?
Right after mayor.
Okay.
Right there. So previous
You want
years.
this to go back to 50,000. That's a $15,000 drop, okay?
Yep. Going
Mayor,
down
if
to
you want
human,
to make comment after he makes comment, it's all right. Just raise your hand. I'm moving on to all his comments and you can take note of what he's saying, I guess. Everybody can.
human resources line, further down. I'm gonna try to go in order.
Yep, that's good. What's this one?
The $1,000 for the professional services. Just it was questioned and Bob didn't feel it was needed. Mayor went into some explanation of what it is, and I think that that's an area we could look at.
Okay.
And then the planning department, the added clerk, the planner, to shave off the 52, 467 down to 0 on that one.
So you want to cut that position?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Not on general government, no.
I see city planner Bag. Would you like to make a comment on that one?
Yeah, I mean, briefly, I understand from the discussion that this is going to go to the full city council next week.
Yeah.
I think that it's short-sighted to propose a cut to the department that is poised to help relieve some of the pressures that residents are feeling financially. So I will challenge the cut. I think our department is doing so much for the city as a whole that I think it's impossible to do it in this scenario right now. But I think to lay out how interconnected the planning department is with all the departments and trying to meet the expectations of residents. So I think that a cut now is going to be pretty devastating to the residents in terms of what they expect. I think they expect new growth. They expect someone to answer a call at town hall. I think they expect us to be trying to reduce taxes, and we're not going to be able to do that without additional funding. I think it's a bad timing. I'll certainly admit that, but this has been, a goal established since day one. So I've been in the position for 3 years. I think cutting it now is it's just not a great time to do it. I think we want to be forward thinking and look ahead.
Mayor LaChapelle?
Yes, I would note that this department is the one of the only departments that has actually put direct dollars back into our residents' hands with the Artist Relief Fund, as well as the CPA under Jamie Webb, putting together the rent relief, as well as looking at community block that are direct dollars into renters who are hurting and who have back rent, as well looking at the community block development grant that also comes out of this department that is going to be the lead and hopefully get over $1 million. That will be $10,000 grants, not loans, to our local businesses, the very ones that have made us the city that we are right now. I do, I would have to say, yeah, that's all I'll say on this, but that's all I have to say.
Okay. Jen, before I get to you, I'd like to ask the other counselors to weigh in. There's 3 counselors here, Tom Peak, JP, and Omar. Do you have anything? Tom, is that you?
Sure. I don't know if I have anything to say that I haven't said in the last time we discussed this, but I really do think it's important that we look at these positions and the amount of money that they potentially can bring in to the city, and to sort of help to adjust or correct some sort of the structural fiscal issues that we're going to face going forward. So I'm a big fan of creating this position, and certainly would vote against any attempt to erase it, assuming that we even had the power to do so. I'd be happy to speak at further length about that if it comes to the full council. Thank you.
Councilor Gomez or Councilor Kuzinski? Go ahead, JP.
While I appreciate the budget being put together and everybody's hard work, we're going to be facing hard times. I will remind everyone what happened during the last downturn. The budget of the revenue of the Commonwealth was decreased by 10%. That's the state's revenue. The unrestricted municipal aid was dropped 25%. So 10% of a loss in state revenue resulted in 25% state unrestricted aid to municipalities. The Mass Taxpayer Foundation just released a report where just for the rest of the fiscal year, the current fiscal year, they're projecting a decrease of $6 billion or 19.3%. 19.3. Remember, the last recession, 10%, resulted in 25% reduction in state aid. I don't know where the state's going to get the money to fund us for any of increases. I'm very much concerned about that. I know we have some important work ahead, and I know that how hard the planning department has worked to help us in that case. I would hate to see someone come aboard only not to really have the money to support them. So I'm very much questioning this subject, and I'm very much in support of the amendments recommended by Councilor Lynch. It's not that we will be cutting our current budget. We'll be maintaining a level budget. A level budget for next year, rather than increase these items. The items that we're talking about, I believe, are increases. $1,000 in human resources. The city attorney was at 50. The increase was to 65. Yes, we did have to have a supplemental appropriation during the year, but we were told that that was for all the new expenses. We had a full charter review that took place. We had one Ferry Street, we had Union Street, and we were told that the Union Street expenses would be taken care of by the supplemental appropriation. So I would like to see that line item return to the 50,000 and
Okay,
maintain level funding.
I'd like to go on to other counselors, then Jen had her hand up, and then the mayor.
Yes, the mayor has her hand up as well.
Well, yeah, okay, but go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. So I don't disagree at all with what Councilor Kwasinski just quoted from Mass Taxpayers. I think the big difference between 2009 and right now is that the economy was purposely shut down. It did not decline over a long period into because of a shutdown. The recession was the recession, a long drawn out financial turmoil. I would also say the last time that the state's revenue or even federal GDP went down, the government did not pass trillions of dollars in relief for states and businesses, as well as add $600 a week for unemployment insurance. I think that that's a one-side context of what the doom and gloom we're looking at. And I don't say it won't be worse, but I will say this idea of a level funded budget and people want to stay in 2020, I think is having one hand on a monkey bar that's behind us. Would it make any sense to have given the auditor or the assessor an extra thousands of dollars because they needed to do the special audit and work that they had to do last year? Would we automatically level fund them at the same level? This budget is shifting the priorities of dollars to the priorities of the city with a 1.098 increase. The fact is, Easthampton comes back from economic despair slower than the slower than the Pioneer Valley because of the short-sightedness we hear here today. I understand the fear of the taxpayers and the counselors who represent those taxpayers. But let me remind all of us, we were elected to make Easthampton better. And sometimes you have to stand your ground in a fierce wind and do the right thing to see your way through that storm. Thank you.
Thank you. We're talking about general government. This is all we're talking about right now. Val. I unmuted you, Val.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say something in regards to the revenue also. That 2009 figure is not a net figure on the state revenue cut. I went back to 2009 and compared what the estimated revenue for Cherry Sheet was on our tax recap compared to what we actually received. And in the end, they actually had another category. They added some extra money in, and they also lowered our assessments. So the net decrease in 2009 with the 9C cuts was 3%, not 10%. And the undesignated might have gone down 10%, but other categories did not go down that much. So, and they had a category added that they don't have now, that they supplemented with. So, and the numbers that we did not use the state estimates. The state estimates are over 300,000 more than the estimates we used. And those were the governor numbers. So we used 3% less than what the states estimated they were going to give us for 21. And that number is about somewhere in the middle of what we actually received in between 18 and 19. It's like an average of what we received in 18 and 19. So that is a very, very conservative estimate for revenue. I think we are on.
Somebody's phone is ringing. Can we mute your phone?
Yeah.
Sorry, Val. Is that your phone?
Oh, it's mine.
All
It's one of those calls that I have no idea who it is somewhere in Kansas City. You know how that goes.
All right, I want to conclude this discussion. Jen, you had your hand up a while ago, so I hope we can continue after this.
Yes, and just briefly, I just wanted to say that it's kind of in keeping with what Counselor Peak was saying and Planner Bag. The mayor mentioned the grant that we were awarded, you know, for us to allow to help our small businesses. And I just want to, you know, shed some light on the fact that administering a grant is a lot of work. And the planning department is already, you know, at capacity, if not beyond. And, you know, that's where these grants to help our small businesses are going to fall. So essentially, you know, there will be more work. And without this position, we're expecting people who already are swamped to take on additional jobs. And I mean, I don't know if people understand exactly how much work a grant can be, but I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Councilor Coniff, if you agree, I would like to move this particular items, general government, for the two of us to vote it into the record, and Councilor Lynch, you can abstain or vote no, so that we can move on. I believe that's where we're at. I don't agree with Councilor Lynch's changes. Councilor Lynch?
So enterprise is part of it too, right?
Oh,
No, that's a separate section. We'll get there. Enterprise is not general government.
Okay, it's listed there on that.
All the way down here. Enterprise.
All right.
Okay, Councilor Coniff, can you agree? Can you make a motion that I have up here as read?
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,922,835.96 for the various departments listed under Section 1, General Government, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations with the following amounts to be transferred as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Committee. Water and Sewer Enterprise, $164,742.16. Parking Fund, $2,500.
Second. Further discussion with the committee members. Any further discussion? Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
No.
Councilor Riss votes yes. It's approved, 2 in favor, 1 against. Councilor Lynch, when this becomes part of the record at the full public hearing, you certainly can make your minority opinion. Section 2, public safety. I have no amendments. Councilor Coniff, do you have anything on this?
I do not, no.
Councilor Lynch, do you have any amendments you're going to bring forward under public safety?
No.
No. Okay. Anybody want to make a comment on this? Public safety, chief or treasurer or other counselors, raise your hand. Peg will find you. No? Then Councilor Coniff, do you mind reading that motion?
No. I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $173.85 for the various departments listed under Section 2, Public Safety, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Do we have further discussion on the committee members? Hearing none. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
Yes.
Councilor Riss votes yes. Section 3, schools. Does either Councilor Coniff or Councilor Lynch have any amendments on this?
No.
Again, we can't do line by line anyway, but we can't either in the schools. Nothing. Bill, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Councilor Coniff?
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $17,536,095 for the various departments listed under Section 3, schools, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any other discussion among committee members? Hearing none. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
Yes.
Councilor Riss says yes. Public Works. Councilor Lynch, I believe you have something under DPW, do you not?
Yes.
I'm gonna share that screen that has that. Which section of the Public Works budget would you like to go to?
The first one down the line would be engineering.
I don't know where that is. Oh, you mean, is it a section?
Yeah.
Okay, so nothing up above here in
Nope.
fuel or administration?
Nope.
Okay. Engineering.
So just on engineering, looking back in the notes, previous years, tools and supplies was $200. Actuals in the previous years was only $21, $421. And we took on a second engineer, which I understand, and the equipment that was needed was not, was in the budget for last year. So we bought that new equipment. So I think $600 personally should cover all licenses and software that we need to continue. So it was to cut the budget on tools and supplies area from $1,200 to $600. So that engineering budget down $600 only. And then moving on to the next section, highway, under rentals, $12,500 budgeted for rentals. I feel we can get away with $10,000, shaving it down $2,500. In the past, it's been $7,700, $2,895, $5,965. So it really never even hit anywhere close to the $10,000 line on the actual spend. So I feel that shaving that down to $10,000 would be fine. That total line, that would be that. So total public works would be $3,100 adjusted.
Okay. I'm gonna go to Greg. Do you have a comment on his, I have no cuts. I have no amendments. Councilor Coniff, do you have any amendments on Public Works?
I do not, no.
So Greg, if you want to say anything about the cuts that Councilor Lynch is recommending?
Yes, so on the engineering side, we need to equip our staff with good state-of-the-art equipment to do their jobs. We're asking them to do more and more as larger projects hit the city here, and we're not talking about a huge amount of money, and they just need the tools to be able to do their jobs effectively, and I would be in disagreement with lowering that.
Okay.
And on the highway side, we're asking the highway department to work every year with older and older equipment, and unfortunately, older equipment is becoming harder and harder to fix. So, we need to have money appropriated to deal with things as they come up, and I would be strongly opposed to lowering that amount also.
Mayor LaChapelle?
I would ask Councilor Lynch exactly what software or equipment he feels non-essential for the engineers. And also on the rental equipment, I would hope for safety of our workers, we would have access to get them proper rental equipment when something pops up, and we can take care of it ourselves safely rather than having to go to a contractor.
Anybody from the council on the recommended cuts from? Sorry, I'm in the wrong budget. Councilor Kuzinski.
Again, in sharpening the pencil to try to be a little tighter, I would certainly see the opportunity to come back for a supplemental appropriation for certain items. If the rental equipment wasn't needed, I know that we had just purchased a brand new sidearm mower, if I recall that's the correct term, at a significant expense. I know that has certain applications. That was a big important purchase for the community and should reduce any need for that type of rental equipment. So I would agree with the proposed adjustments.
Any other councilors? Councilor Peak?
Yeah, I don't feel that I personally have the knowledge on the situation to know what exactly it is that's required. But I would just like to point out that, like, just because something was funded at a certain level for a long period of time doesn't necessarily mean that that level was adequate. You know, there's all sorts of maintenance that I could probably do around my house that I haven't. And the fact that I didn't spend that money in the past doesn't mean that it's okay for me to not do that going forward. So I'm not necessarily saying anything one way or another about these things, but I don't think that just seeing that something was lower in a previous year necessarily means that it was funded to a level that actually sort of allows us to meet the needs of our citizens going forward. And just that, I guess that's more like a global comment, because I keep sort of hearing that come up. Maybe we should just keep that in mind. And if there's a thing that looks like it's gone up, we should ask ourselves, like, well, was it adequately funded before? Was it okay? Was the thing that, you know, that was lower before because we were allowing some of those tools to be used past their useful life? I just don't know, but just as we think about that, maybe just something to keep in mind.
Councilor Coniff, and then the mayor.
Okay, so I agree with Councilor Peak. I also want to make the comment that I don't know that I have the expertise to know what or the public works engineering people need or do not need to do their job. I trust that they know what they need to do their job. If I felt that the overall budget for public works needed to come down, you know, maybe I would reference something more as a percentage, and we reduce every line by a percentage. I'm not even suggesting that's what we do, but to go line by line and to make evaluations against pieces of equipment or the use of equipment, boy, I don't have the expertise to evaluate whether you need it or don't need it. But so, you know, if I wanted to ask you to reduce from the number I see here, I think I would give you a dollar amount and not evaluate or make judgments against the specific line items that you have there, because I wouldn't know.
Well, I think that's why I agree with the mayor that it should be a full section change if we're going to amend the budget. Mayor LaChapelle, you had your hand up.
No, I was trying to see something on the screen and I hit it by mistake. I'm all good. Thank you.
I want to point out, if this is correct, this is a summary. The budget here is $2,000 less than it was in 2020. That's the final overall budget. So the mayor may have moved numbers around and increased certain areas. I also agree with Councilor Peak that it's hard to take these line items and make a judgment on them when I think they've been adequately defended by all our department heads. However, Councilor Lynch, it's certainly adequate to question them. Can we reduce these? But I think Councilor Peak hit the nail on the head. Just because they went up a lot in 1 year, the mayor may be changing priorities in that particular department and moving numbers to make those particular lines work. So I agree with Councilor Peak. Val.
Yeah, I just wanted to keep in mind that the entire enterprise chargeback is based on DPW line items. So is it worth $2,500 or $600 to redo the entire enterprise chargeback and balance the whole enterprise system again and fix the whole budget? That's just my question.
Well, unfortunately, the council has the authority to reduce the budget. It doesn't have a limit. It could reduce it $1 or $1 million. It could do that in each section. I would think, and I'll leave it up to the president to decide, if, for instance, the council voted yes to agree with Councilor Lynch's changes for public works, then we would have to revote the new numbers and you would have to correct these chargebacks according to the formula for the new number. But the amendment to the budget, I would assume, would have to pass first. If it passes the full council, then you would have to make the change, and then we'd have to come back on the 17th because we'd have to allow you adequate time. That's my take on it. Again, we haven't done this in 20 years, so if the council does approve of this change, then I know that these numbers here would have to change. Councilor Coniff, do you agree with that assessment?
Yes, absolutely.
So we would probably on the 17th revote section 4 should the amendment pass. If there's no other comments on Public Works, I would like to move it. Anybody else on it? Councilor Kwasinski.
I don't know if Councilor Lynch had the total figures of the reduction for the entire section or not, just so that figure can be brought forth.
You want
Adding
to
up
talk about it first, Bill? You don't have to do that tonight because you're going to do it. And
I think it was, 400. I thought the figure was 2,500, and there was a third.
Well, it was only $3,100.
$3,100.
Okay. Well, as I said, I think we're going to move.
We can figure out what percentage of the budget that is. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, JP.
I can get the percentages of the budget and make those motions at the full council and do it that way. So I can get them all be aligned.
All right. Councilor Coniff, would you make a motion, please?
Yeah, and I just want to make a comment that I don't know that the issue of whether we can make changes on a line-by-line basis has been resolved. I mean, it may be that we in fact can. And so I don't want Councilor Lynch to feel like, we've decided that you can only give us a single number. My comment was referencing the DPW and that I, Peg Coniff, would not feel comfortable in evaluating on a line-by-line basis. That does not mean that as a city council, it is not in our purview and in our power to reduce line item by line item part of the budget. That's an open question and one we will resolve in the next 24 hours.
Well, you need to resolve it before June 3rd, I would hope. I don't know.
I know, but I'd like to do it before then.
Well, I'll leave that up to you and the mayor. Okay, President.
So would it be appropriate to have Councilor Lynch make the amendments individually and also as a total?
I would rather get the legal opinion. We're going to vote this in because Councilor Coniff and I feel that it can stand. And this is the Finance Committee, not the full council. So then we'll move ahead at the public hearing. That's the appropriate time for the amendments. And as well, we'll have the legal opinion as to whether he can make line item adjustments. I tend to agree that I don't think we can. So Councilor Coniff, would you make a motion for Public Works, please?
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,771,530.37 for the various departments listed under Section 4 Public Works, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations with the following amounts to be transferred as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Committee. Water Sewer Enterprise, $419,365.04. Sale of lots, $2,500.
Second. Any further discussion amongst the committee members? Hearing none. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
No.
Councilor Risch says aye. Passes 2-1. Bill, just as a side note, can you have your minutes done before I just need to remember what the votes were for each of these sections. If you could just take notes of them. I'm not taking the notes right now. I probably should have, but. So Human Resources, I don't have any changes. Councilor Coniff, do you have any changes in Human Resources?
I do not, no.
Councilor Lynch, do you?
Sorry, which one are we on? Human Services?
Yes.
Yes.
You had something in the Health Department, for instance?
Yes. I muted. No.
So let me go through each one.
It's just the Board of Health one there.
That's the only change?
Yeah.
I think I'm on the right page.
Yep. So just the proposed addition for the part-time inspector. So it would be total $24,361 adjusted out of that, bringing the
I have it at 23,211 on the screen here. Do you see that, Bill?
right, but it would be also with the sheriff's fee, the clothing allowance, and then the additional
I
education.
gotcha. Thank you. That's very accurate. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Maggie, you're here. You want to say anything about that change? Wait, you're not. I'm trying to unmute you. It's not working. Can you unmute? There you go.
There
Go
I am.
ahead, Maggie.
So I'm going to just break it up into two different things. So before COVID, Bree, who has done an unbelievable job, did, you know, Easthampton has been growing and growing, and it was getting difficult for her to keep up with inspections even before the pandemic. We have more restaurants, we have more events like Cultural Chaos, Mill Pond Live, Food Truck Fridays, Thunder in the Valley, all those things. And she's the one person that had to divide her time up and try and get all these inspections done, in addition to answering 150 complaints in the year 2019. So, you know, and she's only 35 hours a week, and to do all the administrative duties that she is required to do as the sole person in the department was daunting, to say the least. And if we want to continue forward with what Easthampton is becoming, it's a cultural center. It's a place that people come to eat and enjoy our restaurants, our music, and so on and so forth. We need to keep all those people safe, whether they're in Easthampton or from another city or town. And then, of course, COVID came, and she has been solely devoted to dealing with the COVID pandemic and keeping Easthampton safe, and collaborating with the state, with other health inspectors and the city of Easthampton and everybody involved. And she literally did not have an ounce of time to do any of the other normal duties. And so we have had a temporary health inspector who has taken over all those sort of normal inspections that Bree is now unable to do. And with the not knowing how this pandemic is going to play out over the next couple of years, I mean, we have to treat our city safely until there is a vaccine and everybody can be safe. So to not approve a part-time inspector is creating an unsafe environment for the population of Easthampton and anyone else coming in to visit our city, and not looking ahead at keeping us safe with the pandemic. And that's really what it comes down to, is the public safety of everybody.
Councilor Khanna?
So Maggie, you took the words right out of my mouth, so thank you. I completely agree. I don't think COVID is done. And this position has been woefully understaffed since I've been a city councilor. And it's always been an ask. We've never, it's just never been on the radar. If it's not on the radar now, I don't know what event would cause it to be on the radar. This is the most critical time from a safety perspective for this city. And if we value public safety, as we appear to be by the way we are paying the fire department, the way we are paying the police department, this goes hand in hand with that. And if we value public safety, we're talking out of both sides of our mouth if we're saying get rid of our health inspector, but let's rah, rah, rah on public safety. So I am a huge advocate for this, and I am a hard no on taking this out of the budget.
Other councilors or the mayor, anybody? Councilor Kozinski.
While we don't currently have funded in the budget the position in the current fiscal year's budget. I certainly can see this being added. The reason I say that is I think that in order to stay safe during the pandemic, this is a very different time and will require an extreme amount of additional work. I'm not sure that a new position like this wouldn't be funded by COVID reimbursements, either from the state or the federal government. Not my purview, it's the mayor's. And I'm sure she will get those reimbursements if we're eligible. But even if we're not eligible, I think we have plenty of inspections. Maggie, I think you've done a fine job defending the position, and I will support it.
Mayor LaChapelle.
Yes, I mean, to the point of, even this position would be in the budget, even if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic. When I took office, we had not even hit 50% of the inspections, health inspections that we were supposed to make in the city. So if we had no growth and we stayed in the past, Bree would still be out of compliance with public health rules, as well as putting our residents and visitors at grave danger. The position that is asked for now for inspections, maybe perhaps could be covered by reimbursement. I think that would be more of Bree's time. Right now we have an additional part-time staff that deals with COVID-19. She's on the call, Maggie Hebert, and she is unpaid. She's the chair of our Board of Health. I can't imagine what happens when Maggie goes back to her life.
You're not allowed,
again, you know, again, this is a woefully underfunded department, and we need to build it up. Of course, I'll seek every reimbursement, but also remember, it's reimbursing money that we normally would not have. This is not replacing. So I just want to be careful when folks are thinking we're getting all of this money back. One, we won't get it right away. It could be years. And two, FEMA can look at what we put in for reimbursement, and they will give us 75% of what they feel should be reimbursed, not what we put forward.
Any other counselors? Any other people? I just wanted to comment a couple of things. I agree totally with Councilor Coniff. COVID-19 is not going anywhere. With the reopening of restaurants we hope soon to come, Bree's, our health inspector's duties will skyrocket. And she's still dealing with COVID, and she's done a remarkable job. This position and the planning department position helps overtax departments. I do not want to see, and I've been around a long time, to see good people leave because they're burnt out. We burn out Jeff Bagg, we burn out Bree. There are going to be huge losses to this city. So I think the mayor's targeted places where she sees economic and health safety as a priority, and I cannot disagree with this more, Councilor Lynch. We need to have this position. In fact, I'm hoping next year she finds a way to fund it even further, and the nurse position further, because health and safety has obviously been magnified now, and it's always been there, but now it's even more so. Bree's going to have to make sure that the restaurants are following the norms that the state puts out and the mayor puts out for the reopening. She's going to have a lot of work, and she's going to need help. So that's my comment. If there are no further comments, I'm going to move to a vote, if that's all right with counselors. Anybody else? Councilor Coniff, Human Services, please.
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $655,664.60 for the various departments listed under Section 5, Human Services, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations as recommended by the mayor and Finance Subcommittee.
I'll second that. Further discussion for committee members? Hearing none. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
No.
And Council Rish says yes. Human Services passes 2-1. Culture and Recreation, I have no changes. Councilor Coniff, do you have any amendments you would like to propose?
I do not.
Councilor Lynch?
Nope.
Okay, any comment from any of the other officials of the city with regard to culture and recreation? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion from Councilor Coniff.
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $560,320.14 for the various departments listed under Section 6, Cultural and Recreation, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations with the following amount. I don't think there is any following amount to be transferred.
Okay, that's just probably a boilerplate.
Yeah, as recommended by the mayor and finance subcommittee.
Second. Any further discussion? Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
Yes.
Councilor Riss votes yes. Culture and Recreation passes 3-0. Debt and interest. I don't think we can change this. I think we get in trouble with people who've loaned us money, but does anybody have any changes? Councilor Coniff?
No.
Councilor Lynch?
No.
Any comment from anybody on the debt and interest budget? It's pretty high, but that's because we're building a school. Okay, Councilor Coniff?
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,865,570.62 for the various departments listed under Section 7, Debt and Interest, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations with the following amounts to be transferred or raised as recommended by the mayor and finance subcommittee. Water and sewer enterprise, $505,126.72. Debt exclusion taxation to be reduced by high school bond premium, $3,310. Debt exclusion taxation to be reduced by new K-8 school bond premium, $2,984.11. Tax rate stabilization, $100,000.
Second.
So we have debt and interest. Any further discussion? I'm sorry, I'm zoned out. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
Yes.
Councilor Riss votes yes. Unclassified employee benefits. I just want to comment that I'm so thrilled that we don't have to pay for more health insurance premiums this year. That is astonishing. I feel like I've got to pinch myself, but okay. They went up like what, 8% last year, Jen? I think they went up a ton. But anyway, does anybody have any changes to health unclassified employee benefits? I do not. Councilor Coniff?
I move that the city vote.
No, wait. I'm still asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. I have nothing else to add. Sorry.
Councilor Lynch, do you have any changes on this?
So the only thing would be if those other positions did not get approved at full council, this would have to get readjusted because I believe those positions were budgeted into benefits and things like that, right?
I would think that's the case, Jen. If those positions are removed, you'd have to change this one too, right? If it would domino down to this.
Well, the thing with the employee benefits as a whole is we can't predict, you know, if a new employee comes to fill an already existing position, they may take a family plan where that other person had a single plan. So it's more of kind of a ballpark figure based on how many positions we have, how many we intend to fill. If, you know, if we're going to hire a department head versus an entry-level position, obviously, you know, the percentages are less. So there's not an exact science to figuring out these numbers. I don't know that.
Let me cut you off a minute.
Yep.
Councilor Lynch is commenting that we would have to change this figure should those amendments get approved. And you're saying because it's ballpark, not necessarily.
I would defer to Bob Dixon on that, but that would be my understanding.
I will suggest that the council, if they pass, that we don't vote this in until you look at it. If they pass, if the amendments that Councilor Lynch is thinking about pass the full council, then we won't vote this in either until you guys look at it again. Val?
I just wanted to say that those positions are probably not even really included in here because we don't know if they're going to have insurance or not. They were just put by the department. These numbers were given by Human Resources based on what we have for insurance now and what we expect to have for increases. The Medicare number is estimated based on last year's salaries plus increases. So I don't think that really taking one person away is going to change these numbers at all. In fact, these numbers we may end up supplementing next year like we had to this year.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do is let you and Bob and Jen talk it over so you're prepared should we have to do that. And you can advise the council on whether or not we could move this. Okay, anybody else on unclassified employee benefits? Councilor Coniff, would you make a motion, please? Section 8.
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,395,670.72 for the various departments listed under Section 8 employee benefits, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations, with the following amounts to be transferred as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Subcommittee. Water and Sewer Enterprise, $684,144.15.
Second.
We have a motion to approve Section 8 unclassified. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
Yes.
Councilor Riss votes yes. That's 3-0. Community Preservation, as Chair of the Community Preservation Committee, I believe we've submitted a very conservative budget. And as we stated, we only looked at 11%, or our 15% recommended match from the state was only one of the two that we get, and we didn't include the second state match. So I believe this is conservative, and I'm hoping you'll pass it. Do you have any changes in this, Councilor Coniff?
No.
Councilor Lynch?
Nope.
Anybody else commenting on the Community Preservation Act? Councilors? No? Councilor Coniff?
I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $534,750 for the various departments listed under Section 9, Community Preservation, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations, with the total amount to be raised and appropriated from the Community Preservation Fund as recommended by the Mayor and Finance Subcommittee.
Second.
We have a motion to approve Community Preservation's budget. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
Yes.
Councilor Riss votes yes. Section 3, Enterprise. Did you have something here, Bill?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to get that up. I got to get down to the bottom of the page. So Jen did not have time
Right there. Oh,
to, sorry.
sorry.
I'll keep going. She didn't have time to do all of these as she stated, so some of these still have formatting that needs to be done. And she promises to send them to the full council before, I would hope by like Monday or Tuesday, Jen? All right, so which account are you looking at?
So if you go through it, the equipment rental budget of $5,000 on sewer, you were on sewer, go up.
I'm sorry, okay.
Sorry. Yep, right in there. So equipment rentals, 2 years ago, budget for the brush hog that has now been purchased, so we don't need that $5,000 budgeted anymore. The tires, tubes, and chains, 2,000 was budget. Previous years, it's only been 1,000, so just level funding that. Curb iron casting, same conversation, $20,000. Take out the 10 to get in line with previous years. Noted that there was inventory on hand, and just to stay true. So the sewer line would drop down 16,000 on that. Moving on to wastewater in the next section, lab chemicals last year went up to 45,000 from 30,000 for equipment needed. The equipment was purchased, it was a refrigerator. And so just bringing that line down back to the 30,000 budgeted less. Years only was 30,000. We've spent only less than 20,000 in previous years. So cutting the budget from 46 to 30, taking out 16,000 there. And then going down to the water line, the next section, pipes and fittings. If you want to scroll down to water, Dan. Did I freeze?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I zoned out, Bill. I apologize.
It's all right.
Water.
Yep. Under pipes and fittings, budgeted for 30,000, proposed to adjust to 25,000. Actuals for years past was 15,000, 17,000, 8,000. Never over the 20,000. So I feel the 25,000 is reasonable. So taking out that $5,000 in that line. So total enterprise would be adjusted to going down 37,000. I don't have the percentages yet.
Well, that's okay. Greg, you want to comment on his proposed amendment?
Yes, I mean, we're being asked to maintain a system that's getting older and older. And I don't want to reiterate what I said earlier, but you know, I need that money to be there to buy pipe when I need it. I mean, I could have a major failure on our 16-inch transmission main on Loudville Road and need to go buy 5 or 6 sections of 16-inch pipe tomorrow. And I need the funding to be there to do that, to continue to supply water to the city. I mean, look what happened Friday. You know, we were ready to deal with that. The water system handled it, you know, better than I expected it to. It was excellent, and things recovered very quickly. I know some residents had dirty water calls, but you know,
You're talking about the fire, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, just so everybody knows what I'm talking about.
So the system recovered very quickly. We didn't have a major failure as a result of that, and I need to be able to keep the system in the shape that it's in, and I need the funding to be there to do that.
Okay.
I mean, yes, we've had years where we didn't spend that much money on pipe, but I've got an inventory of pipe there that is getting lower and lower as we go by, and we'll certainly be buying quite a bit, I think, this year.
Mayor LaChapelle?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at cuts in a department that also has a $22 million stormwater plan that we are facing. And we are looking very carefully to see what we can do within our current budget and also meet the federal and state guidelines. To not buy pipe in a reasonable amount of time, to have it on the ready and have to rely on going back for an appropriation, or just buying the amount of pipe a particular project needs and not taking advantage of a reasonable excess to get a price break, is just poor fiscal stewardship. I can't stress that enough.
Okay. Other counselors? Anybody? Counselor Thomas?
Yeah, so this is another area where the amount of conversations we have had regarding the age of our system, the struggle that we are already having trying to patch together an infrastructure that is, I mean, we have wooden pipes, for God's sakes, and trying to understand and to right now, when we are trying to clean that up and get that resolved and get that fixed, to start taking money away does not feel like the right move. It feels a little bit knee-jerky to the event that we're going through. And from a fiscal perspective, it fits the definition of cutting off your nose to spite your face. This would be a big, big mistake if we reduce the money in this particular account.
Mayor LaChapelle, is that hand raised again?
Yes, I have a clarification or a point of information that I think it's in Val's purview. If we were to follow Councilor Lynch's reasoning and cut individual line items with the idea, as Councilor Kwasinski suggests, we could just go back for an appropriation, would that destabilize the budget if we were asking or leaving all these lines underfunded? Because with one appropriation or the possibility of another appropriation, could we maintain our long-term fiscal stability expecting so many requests? I'm not sure if that was the clearest way to say it.
Val?
I think, are you asking, will it affect our bond rating that we don't budget enough money and we have to keep using our free cash to supplement the budget? Or Retain.
That's one, yeah, that's one way
Yeah.
to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll look at that. They will, especially if we're dipping into our retained earnings, which is the enterprise version of free cash.
If we
I
don't
mean, the
spend
idea
anything in a
behind
given
the-
line item, does it sweep to free cash, Val, or does it stay in a department?
In enterprise, everything, any money at the end of the year that's excess goes to retained earnings.
And then if it's outside of enterprise, like health doesn't use the money or isn't funded, where does that money go if it's not funded?
That goes to free cash once all the
I
deficits.
thought you had said earlier, Val, that would mean
Yeah.
you have to adjust taxation to match the budget as it's reduced. Is that not the case?
Could you say that again?
I thought you had said, because I always thought anything we cut went right to free cash. But I thought you had said, and I just need clarification, that if we reduce the budget, then we reduce taxation to match the budget. In other words, we have to reduce revenue because they have to be identical. When we
Yes.
bring in, so do you have to do that in order to have the budget balanced? Or
Yes, you do have to make to have a balanced budget, your revenue has to match your expenditures. But I think what the mayor is asking is if the actual, in other words, if our revenue comes in for enterprise 200,000 more than we estimate, and the expenditures are the same as we estimate, that 200,000 would go to retained earning.
yeah, I know that. I'm just saying, beyond enterprise, all the other sections, I do believe if they are reduced, you have to go ahead and reduce the revenue side to match the budget. That's on the general fund thing.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Any other comments on Councilor Lynch's changes, amendments? Anybody from the city council? I just want, JP, go ahead.
In general, I would support the comments about the reductions, although I certainly agree that we need to keep an adequate stockpile on hand. And if pipe happens to be the stockpile that we need to keep on hand, then so be it. With regard to the refrigerator, I recall that conversation, and that was why that line item saw such a huge increase in the past year.
Anyway, I'm just going to comment again that I don't have the expertise to question Greg's needs in any of his departments under his control. I believe that he knows what's ahead in the DPW. We are aware of that 22 million the mayor brought up, and we are aware of things that they come to us when we have a major appropriation, such as when we had to fix the wastewater pipe that we just fixed. They're big ticket items. I think cutting small amounts from his budget is not appropriate. I think if there was some big ticket item in this entire budget that was questionable, I would certainly look at it. The biggest tick item that Councilor Lynch has brought forward is the planning position, but I don't agree with that. So I just don't agree with making these small changes. I think they certainly have a right to do it, but I also feel that if I were to agree to them, I'm saying I know better than the department chair, the department head, Greg Nuttleman in this case. And I believe the mayor also, when putting forward these budgets under Department of Public Works and Enterprise, is listening to her department head and the Board of Public Works and what they need. So that's just my comment. If there's Councilor Coniff?
So a couple of comments. So I wholeheartedly agree that we don't have the expertise to evaluate specific line items here. I would look at this more as a sweeping cut across all. If I felt that we needed to cut money, I don't know that I would necessarily, as I've said before, go line by line. What I would ask, though, to Councilor Lynch's itemization of all these things is, if between now and Wednesday, the department heads that are potentially being impacted by these requested cuts could provide a narrative that said what they would be losing by not having this particular thing. And so by not having lab supplies, what would, Greg, what would that, you don't have to do it now, but what would that do to your department? And what are the ramifications of not having enough lab supplies? And to all the department heads who have been impacted by the amendments that Councilor Lynch is bringing forward, I would like to understand the downside to having that money taken away for that line item. And if you could be prepared for a narrative next week and or between now and then, I think that would be helpful for you. I'm not saying you have to do it. I just think it would be helpful for all of us to understand the ramifications of a reduction.
Mayor LaChapelle?
Yeah, I'd like to then have the budget review, the public hearing then extended another 2 weeks. Right now, my staff is working staggered with less than full shifts, and to go back and pull their departments together to talk about what these reductions would mean and rebudget their entire department for the year based on small changes. They're going to need time to do that because there's the regular work as well as heightened expectations because of COVID-19 around safety.
Then I would
And
propose,
several businesses are coming back online and are asking, rightfully so, for assistance from our departments, and we want to provide that assistance. I totally respect the right of council to ask these questions and the public to know, but the timeline, and remember, in our wisdom, we also went to a 4-day work week, so people won't be working on Friday.
then I propose that we, on the public hearing on the 3rd, we have a number of sections that we passed 3-0, that we put those forward. And that I think Councilor Coniff's request is a good one. Councilor Lynch, if you would put forward all of the line-by-line changes in each section that you are proposing, send them to the department heads that are impacted by those. And a narrative could be prepared for a June 17th continuation of a public hearing in those sections. How do you feel about that, Peg?
That I think would work. I think
We can get some out of the way.
I want a full vetting and understanding of these requests by Councilor Lynch with a response from the department heads. The public deserves that, the council deserves that. And I agree that if we pass on the 3rd, those things that seem to be pretty uncontroversial, then we would be only left on the 17th with those remaining 3 or 4 sections.
I totally agree. And Councilor Lynch, is that okay with you to put forward all of your changes so that the council and the department heads can react to them?
Yeah, I have it all.
So if you would get those together, maybe get them out to the full council and to the department heads as soon as you can. And I would hope that we could keep the narratives to I don't want a 10-page narrative, Greg and Jeff. I speak to Jeff mostly.
Wow.
Sorry.
Jeff.
I'm sorry. I did punch you at the end of the night. So I am going to ask for a motion on enterprise just so we could do it at where it is now, like we did the others, Councilor Coniff.
Okay, I move that the city vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,621,325 for the various departments listed under Section 10 Enterprise, and that the amounts listed in the mayor's printed report, unless amended, be considered specific appropriations with the following amounts to be transferred as recommended by the mayor and finance subcommittee. Water sewer enterprise, $2,621,325.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
No.
Councilor Riss says yes. So that concludes the budget section of the meeting. I would like to ask Val, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, there's one more vote there.
Right. So Dan, there is a vote for the PEG access.
I was gonna ask you, what is that? I don't remember that. Val,
Okay.
the 240.
No,
Well, we passed it but either 2015 or 2016. And I had said to Melissa at the time, I'm not entirely sure, but I know we have to do something. So she just kept revoting it to pass it. But basically what you're supposed to do is you pass it once, and then every year after that, you have to vote a cap on the account.
And Val, this is the amount that we get from Charter that is on a per member basis per the contract with Charter. Is that what this is? And then the funding goes over to Easthampton Media?
Right, it allows us to put the money in, and instead of it going to general receipts, pay back out to the cable station what we have to pay them.
And I'm pretty sure $240,000 is higher than
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll likely get, yeah.
I made sure it was enough, yeah.
Am I allowed to vote on that being on the board?
Actually, we're both on the board.
Probably should recuse yourself, Bill.
Dan,
Yeah,
both Bill and I are on the Easthampton Media Board of Directors.
we will have to put this forward without recommendation from the
Okay.
Finance Committee and hope that the rest of the councils voted. Sorry,
Are you a member of the board also?
who, me? No.
Wouldn't you be in a position to vote?
Well, there's
No,
only three of us, so two of us can't vote.
Two abstain and one would.
Two
vote one way or
abstains
the
are
other.
not a vote, and you need a majority vote.
You need to have two votes. And it doesn't matter, we are required by the charter to review measures. We don't have to put forward a recommendation. I'll just simply state
That is
at the
true.
meeting
Good
that
point.
this has to be voted by people that are not in conflict. Okay? Tom, you're not in conflict with this, right? Oh, okay, good, because I hope we have 6 members. Okay, just to review budget, Val, if you and the mayor and President Coniff can discuss the legal aspects of line by line, I believe the mayor is correct. I think it has to be a section reduction. But I'm not sure, so if you guys would do that, Mayor, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I've already put the legal request through to the city attorney.
Okay, well, I just wanted Val involved because she gave me differing opinions, so maybe she has something from state finance, I don't know. I didn't look into it, I just asked Val again because
Yeah.
it may be, I was surprised that we could do it line by line, I didn't think we could, so maybe we're incorrect. Bill, yes.
I just had a question. You want me to send the adjustments that I'm making, type it up and send it over to everybody on the full council, which is fine. Is that a meeting law violation by any chance?
You're just providing information, there's not going to be any discussion. You're providing information.
It's already public, Bill.
Okay. So even though,
Providing information, these are the cuts I'm proposing, period. We're not gonna, if there's a debate, Councilor Coniff, I hope I'll cut
Yeah,
it
we're
out.
not having a debate. Bill, if what you could do, honestly, is take those line items and the way they exist today with just their format and put in your new number so that we have a running column of the grand total and then section by section subtotals of what you're putting forth. That would be really helpful.
Right, and I think the departments you're looking at is Greg, Jeff Bagg, and Bree and Maggie, right? Is the other 3 department heads we're talking about?
General government, public works, human services, and enterprise.
Oh yeah, and the mayor's checking. Do you still have your hand up, Mayor, or is that a mistake?
No, I'm sorry. I'm good.
I just,
At the meeting then, it sounds like we're going to move the sections that have been voted 3-0 tonight, as well as the section for 240,000 for the PEG access and cable related fund. We'll move all of those and we'll continue the public hearing for the other sections to the 17th. We will meet on the 10th, 2 weeks from now, to discuss the new fire contract. Val, when you resubmit and the mayor submit those new numbers, could you just make a statement that you would like the other appropriations to be removed without prejudice because they're incorrect? And they need to get to Barbara, I guess, tomorrow, maybe by Monday, but I'll leave that to you and Barbara and Peg. but that's because we're doing that. Jeff, do you have a question?
Yeah, please. Just a question on the expectation for June 3rd. So I'm fine with producing a brief narrative. My best guess would be that the members of the public may not be aware that portions of the budget will be heard or pushed out. So for myself, I would be prepared to attend the public input session, the public speak time. But is it the expectation that you'd have myself or Bree or Greg sit through the June 3rd meeting, or are you confident that everything would get pushed?
Well,
17th.
we have to, by rule, and by law, we have to allow discussion of the budget items that we're going to continue. We still have to allow discussion.
Okay.
Right, Councilor Coniff? If people want to talk about enterprise, they can talk about enterprise public, but then we'll continue it. So yes, you might want to attend, or Greg, and just to hear what people are saying.
Okay. That's fine. I just wanted to check.
Otherwise, we're not going to actually debate those until the 17th. JP, on the 10th, I'm sorry, Peg?
I was just going to say, in the June 17th meeting, can we assume it will be restricted to this discussion only as the agenda topics?
Well, given the COVID, I think that's between you and the mayor.
Okay.
JP, on the 10th, you brought forward a motion regarding the CPA exemption. I don't mind that, but you were going to get us some information about how it's administered. You were going to give us that, and you were going to give us what you might feel a round number it would cost us, maybe by looking at other communities. But mostly I'm concerned about Lori and administration of this, whether they're all on board. And so could you be prepared on the 17th to give us more information? Because we will take up that exemption given the deadline of getting it on the July meeting. Do you agree with that, JP? You're muted, JP.
Just was having some trouble unmuting here. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know if you read my report.
I briefly read it, yes, but
In the email from May 21st. The email sent May 21st. Where I reported out. Yeah, in that email.
Well, I'm sorry if that included the information I just asked for. So if you could just be aware.
Yeah, essentially, the information was that the Agawam had 0 CPA requests in the fiscal year 2020 for exemptions.
Okay.
For
So
CPA.
let me cut you off.
Wilbraham, I believe, had 5 or 6.
All right. Well, that's the information that I needed. So great. I just wanted to make sure that the Board of Assessors is on board with administering this and everything. But we'll discuss it on the 17th because we still have to, as a finance committee, move it to the full council. On the 10th of June, we'll discuss it at finance. So that's when I need you, JP. On the 17th, I'll set a public hearing.
On the 10th of June, sure. That sounds.
For the meeting in July to move the CPA exemption forward.
Sure.
So that's the timeline, okay?
Thank you.
I'm not going to deal with stipends and salaries until the fall, if that's okay. We have until December 31st to make a decision on that. Is there any other discussion for this evening? Anybody? Then I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Councilor Coniff?
Aye.
Councilor Lynch?
Yes.
Councilor Rist says yes. Thank you all.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you on June 3rd. Some of you tomorrow night.
See you then.
You say too much at these meetings. You need to keep quiet. Love you, buddy. All right. Thank you all.